Here on Lights and Buttons, oftentimes we talk about more modern technologies and topics around that, but today we're going to go retro and talk about a game called Star Wars X-Wing. Now this is a really old school game, and when I say old school, I don't mean an old school looking game like Minecraft. I'm talking about a truly old school game where it runs under DOS. So if you're not familiar with DOS, this predates Windows XP. This is a really old school game where it's not compatible with any modern computers. As a matter of fact, what we're planning to do is going to install the DOS emulator with my joystick that's currently USB based. Will be converted into a game/MIDI port device through the emulator, and then that will bring the joystick data to the game as though it's an old school joystick device that's not USB. So let's see how this goes. If this gets a lot of likes, if it gets a lot of popularity, I might make a whole series out of this. But for now, I'm planning to make maybe a few episodes on it, just to kind of bring back some old memories. And this was actually one of my favorite games when I was a kid. And even though the graphics aren't really that good by today's standard, this is a really fun game that I've played in the past. First, head on over to DOSBox.com. You want to just download the latest version to your computer. And then when you hit download now, just wait for this countdown to finish and download the installation file. So now that you have DOSBox installed, let's go ahead and check it out. So underneath the start menu, if you go down to DOSBox, you have two different ways to start it. You can have a console behind the DOSBox window if you want, but I'm going to choose the one that says no console. And then notice that it doesn't start up in full screen, so that's something that we can tweak. There's a configuration file that we'll hit on to later and then make those adjustments. But notice it starts in a Z drive. If you try to go to C, there's no such thing as a C drive as of now, because any additional drives you want to add, you have to map. And by default, you boot into the Z drive, and any files that you need to start this up, that's contained in this drive. So a little bit different than the actual DOS 6.22 days, but the commands are the same. Alright, and another thing I want to adjust is the performance settings in the options file, because if you just install Star Wars X-Wing, it will actually lag behind, and even on a more modern computer the settings aren't right, and you won't get the proper frame rates. So let's go ahead and exit the screen, go back to the start menu. Under DOSBox there's an options you can select. So when you open the options, you'll launch Notepad, and feel free to explore stuff around here. I think one thing I recommend is make a copy of this file. It's good practice just to have a backup copy in case you're tweaking things and something breaks. You can compare things back and forth, but feel free to explore this. As I said, there's a lot of settings here that you can change, but I'm going to make it so that it's more suitable for gameplay. So in this configuration file, we're going to start with this full screen setting. We're going to make this true, and then we'll head down to the resolution. Now DOS games are not running under 1920 by 1080 or 4K, so we're going to drop this down to I'm going to try 720 by 480, and then we're going to also adjust the aspect ratio, because if you make it full screen, everything stretches out, because your monitor will more likely to be 16 by 9 than 4 to 3 like the old TVs that are CRTs. So we're going to make the 16 by 9 screens work with the 4 by 3 aspect ratios, and to do that we're going to drop down here to the render section, and under aspect we're going to change it to true, and by changing this to true we maintain aspect ratio. And then going down to CPU, this is where we adjust the performance settings. We're going to change the cycles to 10,000. This will accelerate the performance for Star Wars X-Wing and not make it lag behind. And then we're going to keep the rest of the settings mostly the same. We're going to drop down to auto exec. In this area, if you old school DOS 6.22 people, remember autoexec.bat is the area where you can launch scripts and other things when this PC boots. This is also where I'm going to put in the commands to mount the drives. So mount, and then the drive letter. So in this case we're going to add C. Let me grab the file path. This is where I'm going to install the Star Wars X-Wing into, and then we're going to add a virtual CD drive, so mount, and then D, grab the path. So I extracted all the Star Wars X-Wing CD files into this drive, or into this path. I don't have a CD drive on my current computer, but I've done this in the past, so I have all the files here. Now, for legal purposes, I'm not going to post up these files. These are copyrighted files, and I don't want to get into any legal issues. So, if you can find something on eBay, you can extract the files from there. But anyway, I'm going to mount a D drive with X-Wing CD, and since this is an emulated CD drive, I'm going to do a -T and then CD-ROM. I'm going to hit save, Control S, close this, and start DOSBox. After a couple of seconds of the blank screen, we got the full screen running of DOSBox along with the other settings that we put in. And as you can see, the C and D drives are mounted. So if I head over to the C drive, now you can access the drive. Of course, there's nothing there since it's a blank folder. And if we go to the D drive, we can list all the stuff that's in the CD. And the CD drive contains the installation. So if I do list the executable files, you'll see the install.exe, which will run. So we're going to install the required files onto the hard disk. Plenty of space. We're going to leave the default directory. Well, it's pretty fast, especially on solid state. Alright, so we're going to do some sound testing. Going to hit return. Good old Sound Blaster 16. And then we're going to do some testing with music. Oh, that came through loud and clear. I'm going to hit Y. We're going to test some more sounds. Okay, heard sound, so hit Y. This is going to test the stereo compatibility. Okay, and just like the other sound, we heard the TIE Fighter moving from left to right. And that's it. I'm going to hit return to keep the settings. And exit. It was pretty painless. Yes, exit. And there we are. It's now installed. Well, that's pretty much it in terms of the initial configurations. We installed DOSBox, we configured the DOSBox options in the configuration file, and we installed Star Wars X-Wing. I have the USB joystick here ready to go, and in the next video we'll hop into the game. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy these videos, and I'll see you next time.